Student success does not happen by accident. It takes intentional systems, strong support structures, and people who wake up every day thinking about how to help students persist and finish what they started. Today's guest leads that work at Gardner-Webb, building student support systems, strengthening retention strategies, and helping students navigate the path from entry to completion. This is a conversation about belonging, persistence, and what it really takes to help students succeed. This is the Bulldog Mindset. Welcome to the Bulldog Mindset, a podcast about purpose, people, and the work that brings Gardner-Webb University to life through learning, leadership, and service. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Pillar, Assistant Provost for Academic Affairs, coming to you from the historic Elliott House on the Gardner-Webb campus. Today I'm joined by Dr. Kenneth Johnson, Executive Director of Student Success. Dr. Johnson joined Gardner-Webb in November and brings more than a decade of experience designing and leading student-centered success strategies across advising, coaching, career readiness, first-year experience, and retention systems. His work has focused on data-informed student support, building a strong sense of belonging, and integrating academic and career development tools to improve persistence and completion. Today we'll talk about what student success really means, how institutions can continually improve retention and graduation outcomes, how student needs differ across populations such as online and residential learners, and what it takes to build coordinated, high-impact student support services. With that, Dr. Johnson, welcome to the Bulldog Mindset.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, as I mentioned in the intro, you're fairly new to Gardner-Webb. You're one of the few people, perhaps that is even newer than myself, being here fairly new as well. But talk us a little bit. You've spent much of your career building student success systems, working in advising, coaching, career readiness. Talk us a little bit what first drew you into that kind of work.
It all started with my first role as an executive director at Moore Career College years ago. And I was over a technical college there. I ran the entire college, all the way from registration, recruitment, all the way through graduation. I handled everything from A to Z. And having that technical college experience, helping students to be successful was exciting. It was a starter point for me. And I was really excited that I was helping students to actually be successful, find a career path to support themselves and their family. And it was something I was really, really excited about. We probably would have stayed in for long term, but my wife was offered the state librarian job of Utah. And so when we made that transition, I went from technical college to Weber State University, which was actually a dual mission school. They did associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, all the way up to PhDs. So that allowed me to understand the whole student, all the way from technical college, all the way through doctorate degree. And from that experience, I understand the important thing about student success is really about helping the student achieve their ultimate goals, which could vary from A to Z. What's important to them and how they find that success path is something that they determine on the front end in order for them to be successful. And so really that path starts with the student understanding their journey. And if we back up a little bit, a student really can't understand the student success journey unless they have a relationship with Christ. So you have to be, and me personally, I believe you have to be a born-again Christian to understand where you are, what your path is, and so God can help guide you in that pathway. So it's a foundation of Christianity, and that's the reason why I came to this school, because Christianity is a foundation of Gardner-Webb. And so I wanted to be able to show the student the importance of knowing Christ first. Once you understand Christ, then I can help you be a successful student, but you can't be success in life without first understanding who Christ is and having Christ as your personal Savior. Then we can talk about success. But success starts with your relationship with Christ. And so once you have that foundation, then we can grow and find out what the next step for you is, whatever that career path is, whatever that path is for you to be successful. But we need to start with that foundation. Once we have that, then we can get you to walk towards Christ. Walk towards success in your career path.
Well, you mentioned, so in your career journey, in your career path, clearly having that strong relationship with Christ, but then the work that you did at the technical college, it sounds like you learned all aspects of academic operations.
Yes.
But so from that, then clearly you got tuned into the different aspects of higher ed,
Right.
different parts of how a university or institution functions. Was that originally perhaps your career goal, was to go into higher ed, or did something else sort of direct you towards it? Like you originally had this plan, majored in X, thinking you're going to do that role, and then you found your way into higher ed.
Originally, I thought I was going to be an athlete.
Okay.
So I was very good in basketball. I was probably, I'd say I was the leading scorer on my high school team. I had scholarships to major universities coming out of high school, and I thought that was going to be the path going forward. However, we're truth bombing here. However, I got caught up in my ego and felt that, I didn't have to go to class. I didn't have to do anything. I was the star. And so I literally failed out off the basketball team in my high school year, my senior year of high school. And because of that, I lost all of my scholarships.
Wow.
But the dream was not over because I walked on to a university. And because of my talent, I was able to get a scholarship by walking on. So I move on a little bit. I did graduate. So I ended up busting my butt to make sure I did graduate. So I graduated on time, even though I fell off the team. I walked on to a university. I was able to get that scholarship. And I was there for a year. And I was doing pretty well. And after the year was over, the coach said, he thought that he wanted to move in a different direction because most of the team was young. So he let go of all his freshmen and recruited juniors and seniors. So I was gone from that university. I walked on to another university and was offered a scholarship there. But when you transfer universities, you have to sit out a semester. And during that sit-out period, I was playing pickup game of basketball. And on that pickup game, I went to make a layup, and I hit my ankle against a pole. And so I broke my ankle during that game. And that kind of, at that point, ended my basketball career. So I thought I was going to be an athlete. And that's what's amazing about the role I'm in now, because I'm over student athlete. So I can understand that. I understand the importance of having a plan A, plan B, plan C, because we're not all going to make the league, right? Yeah. So we need to have a backup plan to make sure we can make it to the next, we can make it academically and have a career path. It's not all about the NBA, the NFL, or whatever the professional league you're going to be in. It's about having a backup plan. So that's where I started, and then I pivoted, and that's why I wanted to help students in higher education to learn that, hey, you have to have a backup plan. You have to have other ways to provide for your family, whether that's technical college, social degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree, but you have to have a plan to provide for your family. And so that's why my focus shifted from athletics to higher education, to helping students to find their path.
It's interesting. A while back, we had Dr. Ahern from in exercise and sports science on this podcast, and he was a former college athlete, and he experienced injury and other challenges like that absolutely impacted and helped shape and direct the path he went on. And so as you were talking about your journey, right away, then what I was picking up on, like, okay, I can not only understand now that you are working in student success, but you're also coming at it, from a perspective that can really, really help give students an understanding of not just what's at stake, but what they need to do to be successful. Because in many ways, it's tough to truly know what success is if you haven't experienced a setback. I hate to use the F word, failure, but
right.
So but a setback. Until you've experienced setbacks, and myself, it wasn't. And when I would have students in my classes, and it may be the first time they got a poor grade on a test teaching chemistry. It's one of these things where in many ways, okay, great. Now you've had that experience.
Right.
How are you going to shift from that? So that definitely gives me even a stronger appreciation for the work that you do, having come from that experience. So based on that, based on what you experienced as a student yourself and as an athlete, student athlete, and then the path that you found yourself in once you earned your academic degrees. You've blended you've worked in student affairs, career readiness. You've in your own studies, belonging research. You're definitely data driven. How for you? How would you define, or what does student success look like for you?
Okay. Student success looks like for me, I designed during my doctoral program, when I was doing my dissertation process for my doctoral program, I designed a acronym, and it's called the DIP model. It's disconnection, intentional connection, internal belonging, and purposeful engagement, right? And so those 4 levels of belonging is how I define my student success model. When you first come into a university, you feel disconnected. And so our responsibility is to create intentional connection with you through your advisor, through Dimensions class, through University one-on-one. We got to create that intentional connection with you. Once we create that intentional connection with you, then from there you can transition to feeling like you internally belong, because now you feel like you're part of the community. And then once you feel that you're a part of the community and you belong, then so for example, you transition from your regular advisor to your faculty advisor. And once that transition takes place, you still have connection as your career coach to your advisor. So now you feel like that internal belonging is taking place, and you at that point begin to have personal engagement. Then that means you want to give back. So it's always a big old circle. So you start disconnected, you get intentional connection, you get then from there you get internal belonging, then you get purposeful engagement, which means you are now the intentional connection for somebody else, as a peer mentor, as a tutor, as somebody who leads a club. So to me, it's a big old circle that we go around, and you become a part of that circle, and you help that circle to grow and facilitate as time goes on. And and there's all different components of student success from there. We have Cornerstone that we have as a piece of software here. We have a software called Forge that I haven't even brought to the university yet. It's a free piece of software to help students find their career paths. So student success to me is meeting the student where they are, making sure they go from disconnection to intentional connection, internal belonging, personal engagement, and through all those processes, you help them grow and find out where they belong. It's through their career path, through and through different pieces of student support systems, helping them along the way and encourage them along the way. Is how I define student success, because there's gaps all the way through there, and they fall between cracks, and that's how student support systems can help them to be able to keep that intentional connection and help them to move forward. But it's all starts with those 4, the DIP model, but then I build systems throughout the DIP model to help you be successful.
So that leads me to, and you've answered this, or you've started to talk about this a little bit, but if you look across higher ed, the average retention rate is, of course it varies widely, but we'll say it's in the upper 60% category, retention from first year to second year. And then 4-year graduation rates, privates, they tend to be in the 72%. Well, I'm sorry, that's the 6-year graduation rate. 4-year graduation rates tend to be more around 50%. 6-year graduation rates for private schools around 72%, public around 70%, for-profits, we won't even go there, they're much, much lower. But, still the 4-year graduation rate, and recently there's a couple podcasters and folks in higher ed out there, Gary Stocker is one in particular, who has been real critical of how the 6-year graduation rate has come into focus, because people were selling a 4-year degree, but it's okay though if it's 6 years. And granted, whether it's you change a major or something like that, there's going to be something that could adjust that a little bit. But still, it seems like for the last decade plus, higher ed as a whole, we've got problems with getting students to completion. So, the model you just described, what is it that institutions, is it at the institution level? Are they, because they have Centers for Student Success, they're putting in effort. Where's the disconnect where we seem to be sort of stuck at pretty flat retention and graduation rates and just can't seem to move the needle?
I believe the disconnect is, and one of the reasons that students are in school for 4 to 6 years is because they're changing majors. They haven't really understood what their true career path is.
Yeah.
So your father was a math teacher. Your mother was a math teacher. So you assume that you're going to come into college and be a math teacher. I'm just giving an example. But you're not really good at math. That's just not your skill set. But the peer pressure is that's what you're going to do since your parents did that. So, but if we were able to do a personality profile on you and do a career assessment, and I mean a career assessment, not a career assessment about once you graduate school, but a career assessment to find your career path, and based on your personality profiles, from there we could have said, oh, math teacher really ain't your thing. You're more of a history teacher, just for example. And because of this is the path you should go on, if we get you on the right path in the beginning, you won't be in school for 6 years. Okay? And that's another reason, because you're in school for 6 years and now you got, I've been in school for 6 years and everybody else I've known is graduating or moving on and I've been here. So really what we're doing is hurting ourselves because you are here longer, because you didn't start right. Now you're here longer. The odds of you dropping out are higher because you didn't start right. So it's our responsibility to give you the tools on the front end to make sure you pick the right career path from the beginning and give you those certain tools so you can be successful long term. That's, to me, the gap is students are coming in, deciding what they want to do, deciding their own majors, deciding what they want to do, and long term that's failing them, back to the F word again, because they're on the wrong path based on a friend wants to do something or a family member wants to do something, not what you truly desire to do, what is a good fit for you. You're just doing something, whether it's peer pressure, family pressure, because you know about this area and you feel that's what you want to do. When I first wanted to go to school, I wanted to be a doctor. Then I realized you had to go to like 16 years of school. And I was like, no, I really don't want to be a doctor. But it's kind of the same thing. You think you want to be something, but then you realize that's not a good fit for you. And I think that's where our disconnect is. Students get off on the wrong path, and then, we got to make sure we guide them through that process, but I think students get off on the wrong path.
Well, and like you, I originally was going to be an architect major.
Right. Yeah.
And it was because in high school I had 4 years of computer-aided drafting, and
Right.
I loved it.
Right.
But what I did not, and I guess I didn't talk to enough people. I didn't do I remember doing some sort of a career profile thing, and architect was not on there, but I'm like, no, it's still where I want to go. But what I found out very quickly in my first year of college was, the technical drawing, I had skills there. I could do that. But the artistic side of it, no. And the first art class I took, within a couple of weeks, I quickly realized, this is not going to be the path for me. And even within a university, I didn't switch universities. I didn't transfer out. Within the university, switching from architecture to environmental science.
Right.
Could I have done some extra summer classes? Could I have done something? Possibly, but that added a half year right there. So their 4 year for the cohort that I started, I was not part of their 4 year graduation rate. I was part of their 6 year graduation rate.
Right. And then students are also making their own schedules.
Yeah.
Right. They're deciding what they want to take, 15 hours, 18 hours, depending upon what the requirements are. And they're taking a chemistry and a math class their very first semester, and really they're just asking for problems.
Yeah.
So also we have to do a better job of scripting schedules for students when they first get here. I am of the mindset that we should have a pre-built schedule for you based on what you believe your major is going to be, and make sure we set it in a place to where you can't get overwhelmed your first semester. And things of that nature can help us to keep students retained. We just have to do a better job on the front end. Yeah.
So what you're describing there is definitely that is a responsibility of the institution to do a better job with all aspects of whether it's how they script it, advising, doing that. But for a moment, holding that a little bit aside,
Okay.
holding the, having given them some career guidance already aside,
Yeah.
Based on your work in, first year success, you've taught first year success courses. What do new students most need to learn or do within that first semester to, and again, there's many things, but for you, what's one or two things that stick out that they really need to do that first semester to start establishing that foundation for them to be successful?
Okay. They have to transition, and they have to understand that college is not high school. They have to understand that they're going to have to spend some time studying. I've known plenty of students who had straight A's in high school and didn't require too much study time. But when they got to college, it was a different animal.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you have to understand, in our university 111 class, first thing we need to teach them to understand, this is not high school. Okay, you need to understand that you need to be seeking out tutoring. You need to be seeking out the resources here at the university because you're going to need these resources. It's not a weakness to need to go to tutoring. It's a resource. It's really wise of you to seek that out to make sure you're on top of things so you can be successful in your classes. And I think the first thing we need to do is make sure they know about all the university resources, whether it's health, our counseling services, health and wellness facilities, all of the tutoring services that we mentioned, but all the resources, you need to be aware of what's available to you as part of being a student and transition from high school to that. And then from there, we talked earlier about, understanding some of your career services resources as well. But I think that's the starter path. Getting them in is transition and letting them know this is not high school anymore. And this is the transition you have to do to be successful here. And here's the resources we have at the university to help you to be successful. And there's nothing wrong with using these resources. You're not considered weak because you're using these resources. You're really smart because you're using the resources.
Well, in what you're describing, it's really, how it's navigating their educational experience. Because again, in high school, it's very much structured for them. And here, call it that there's less of a safety net or guardrails. But they definitely need to take the lead on that navigation, through that. And it's going to look different. Even if they try to, like, okay, even if the student says, I get it, I need to be responsible, I need to be the one doing it.
Right.
If they take that same approach, the services are different. The nature of the courses are just fundamental. It's not an issue about your intelligence. It's just a nature of...
Yes. It's a whole different platform. It's done differently. And like we said earlier, you have to also understand that you are responsible. So if you're paying, this is not high school, you are now paying, well, there's some high schools you do pay for, but you're paying for this education. And because you're paying for this education, if you do bad on the test, your instructor's not going to call your mother and tell them you did bad on the test, right? It's your responsibility to understand that. And that's why we have to use the software, Cornerstone, to track that when you did bad on the test. So then we can track to see, oh, you did bad on the test? Okay, we need to reach out to you and make sure you have these necessary resources. So it's important for us to have the student support systems in place to be able to reach out to you when you do poorly on something.
Yeah.
We're aware of that so we can reach out to you to help you. And so we have to be that support system as opposed to your parents.
Yeah.
And we have to have a system in place to help us with that support system so we can support you through the process.
Well, one of the things I can tell you, last semester I got the opportunity to teach in our University 111 class, and I chose to do that in part just so that I could understand what that transition looks like.
Right.
And some of what you mentioned is in our program there. In terms of early on we did some intentional work both in terms of discussion but active activities for them to go out there and actually in my section I had them develop an advertisement for one of the services out there, and then they shared what they found with each other, because some of those, whether it's Christian Life Services, Career Center, Knoll, library, these are all things that even if they sort of I know they exist, but do you really know what the opportunities are?
We had when I was in my previous institution, when I taught the class, And it was a kind of a specially scripted version that I had taught that was more career services, and we called it was part of our design your life kind of process as well through the pros. But I actually made students schedule an appointment with what we called a peer mentor, but the peer mentor would help you with making sure you understood reading skills, time management skills, test taking skills. And so you were required to go see somebody and schedule an appointment with them and learn those skill sets through the class. Because you may do, like I said, great in high school, but it's different now. So you need to make sure you understand these certain skill sets so you can be successful. So we have to set students up for success, not set them up for failure.
Well, I want to come back to the peer aspect, peer mentor, peer student as it relates to student success. But this is a good place to pause and take a short break. When we come back, we'll keep the conversation going and continue to look closely at how students navigate college and what helps them stay on track. We'll be right back.
Did you know cybersecurity is one of the fastest growing fields in the world, offering incredible career opportunities? At Gardner-Webb University, you can earn a Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity. Choose to study online or in a classroom. And if you're a community college graduate with a degree in information technology, Gardner-Webb makes it easy to complete your bachelor's degree. To secure your future with Gardner-Webb's cybersecurity program, email admissions at gardnerwebb.edu.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Mindset. I'm your host, Greg Pillar, and I'm here with Dr. Kenneth Johnson, Executive Director of Student Success at Gardner-Webb University. So continuing where we left off, you were talking a little bit about peer mentoring. And in my career, I've been a part of supplemental instruction programs,
Yes.
peer mentoring, and those are very important as part of any, I guess, success strategy with students. Can you talk a little bit about the value that peer mentoring provides, in addition to professional advisors and tutors and so forth?
Yes. Peer mentoring is vital to a student's success. Earlier, we talked about the DIP model. And when you get to that point where you have intentional connection and then you get into the purposeful engagement, that's important for you because you need to start giving back. And so as a peer mentor, you're giving back to that student who's trying to find that who needs that intentional connection, and that's what you're doing. So it's, like I said, it's a circle, and so it's important for us to get the students who've already had that, who went through intentional connection, internal belonging, personal engagement, to give it back so that next student can get that same thing. So it's important for us to find students who can do that. And the peer mentoring, and I don't mean just, when we say peer mentoring, it's not just necessarily helping you with a subject, helping you to test taking and note taking skills and all of that. It's also important for you just to understand the concept of being a student. You know, this is where this building is. This is where this building is. Oh, that instructor right there, if you take that class, he's this way. So all those little traps that you wouldn't know about, this student with the experience can help you navigate those landmines so you can be successful. So peer mentoring is more than just, helping you learn, help you with a certain subject. It's the whole student career pathway is important in peer mentoring.
Well, what you described there, I did not coin this term, but it's the hidden curriculum. It's the hidden curriculum of pursuing, whether it's college, again, technical school, whatnot.
Yeah.
Every university, it's there. It's what, the stuff that's not obvious, maybe not even it's not even written down, but that you need to know in order to be successful.
Yeah. What does bursar's office mean?
Yeah. Right.
What does that mean? And so it's things like that, so.
Or even if a student gets summoned to the provost office, what's
provost?
Right. No, but let's take a step back for a second. I should have done this earlier, but I've for focusing on student success, we've dropped terminology, things like and things like advising, first year success, mentoring, stuff like that. But since you now lead the Student Success Center at Gardner-Webb, tell us a little bit, what falls under that umbrella?
Okay, yes, excellent question. I am, of course, Executive Director of Student Success, and under my umbrella is all the advising that we have. The first year, early advising, when you first get here, you come with an advisor. So you have that advisor. Then we also have athletic advisors. Then we have online advisors. So all 3 levels of advisors are under my purview. Then the next thing is first year experience, which is university 1-1 classes and everything associated with that. Also tutoring, writing center, everything that goes along with that. And then lastly, disability services is also under my purview. So all of those areas. Now you do have a separate advisor. Once you've been here for 2 years and you get into your major, you have a faculty advisor that you transition to. But even though you transition to your faculty advisor, your original advisor becomes your success coach, so that advisor never leaves you. So your original advisor is with you all 4 years, and then after you get here, after you become a junior or so, and you actually get into your major, then you get transitioned to a faculty advisor. But again, your original advisor is a success coach, so you always have that original advisor. But those are the areas I'm over.
Well, and even with faculty, being drifted to a faculty advisor, the Centers for Student Success, and they have different names depending upon the institution.
Yeah.
They still play a key role in that advising strategy.
Yes.
Because different universities approach advising just differently. Some have it embedded into general education.
Right.
Some it's completely different. But I think it's important to note that still setting that tone for the overall advising experience is a responsibility that falls into you.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier, we've got we've got advisors, we've got student athlete advisors, and then also online advising.
Yes.
And that starts to get at a little bit just the unique nature of the students. It's not one size fits all. We've got students coming into their education from different perspectives, whether they're a student athlete where they've got to juggle the athletic with the academic, and then with online, the students who are part of online programs just have fundamental different needs, not only just to help them succeed, but get to completion. Talk us a little bit about those different areas and how they're supported.
Well, we just recently decided that with those different areas, athletic advising, regular advising, and online advising have been siloed into 3 different areas. And we understood the importance of breaking down those silos. So instead of just having you still have an online advisor whose specialty is online. You have an advisor whose specialty is regular advising. You have a advisor specialty athletes. But what we're doing now is we are doing a cross-training across all 3 areas so every advisor can do all the advising. So no matter what happens, you have an advisor who can help you. If you're used to this one advisor, but that advisor is on vacation or out or something like, you can still get advising. You're not limited by just the advisor you have. So we wanted to break down those silos and start doing cross-training across those areas of advising. But the differences between those areas, though, all that being said, is that if you're an athlete, of course, you have specialized schedules, and really it's all about finding the time that you're not practicing, that you're not at games, finding the courses that work within that time frame. Then when you are a regular advisor, it's different, but you also could have somebody who has who also works off campus,
Yep.
or who has a full-time job and is coming part-time. So you have to make that transition. And then if you're online, that's a whole different thing, because now you're not face-to-face, so the learning has to be set up differently, and the way you learn is differently. So all those 3 areas have a specialty, but at the same time, I'm trying to find a balance between all of that to make sure that we can be successful helping the students no matter which area they come in. But yes, there's a lead and there's an expertise in every one of those areas.
Well, and as you mentioned with that cross training, that helps. The student now is not having to. I'm this category, so I need to find someone who's this advisor. It shifts that onto the advisor, recognizing, okay, this is an online student, so they're going to need a different degree of coaching, or
Yes.
Compared to a student athlete, compared to a face-to-face.
Yes. So all of our advisors will advise all areas. Now you may have a small set of the other areas. Let's say you're an athletic advisor and 80% of your students are athletes, but you'll still have 20% who are online and regular. So you'll always have that skill set in your back pocket no matter what.
So another population, and they sort of are covered, oftentimes these are students who are in the online population, but they can be part of the face-to-face as well. And this is a growing area that I found a lot of interest in, and that is the some college no credential population, mainly formerly adult students, but those students who whether they started college as a traditional age student and then either on their own or perhaps failed out, but still after completing some college. And now, they did find a path. They have a career. Maybe they got an associate's degree, maybe not. And right now, that number of people under the age of 65 is around 36 million. 36 million people with some college, no credential.
Okay.
And there's lots of challenges for them to get re-engaged back into the university system. And boy, we could have 4 or 5 episodes going through all that. But coming off of what we were just talking about, one of those though is those, like you said, they whether they got full-time jobs, they got families, they're what they need to be successful is just going to be fundamentally different. And so the folks in the professional staff that you work with, they're a bit already dialed into that. But how do we make this like a university, a collective effort, and not trying to put too much just on the Student Success Center to not only help that population, should we attract them in, but really all students. I mean, because really at the end of the day, retention is a university, lift, not just student success.
Yeah, I think we need to partner with, because you're talking about these non-traditional students, and these non-traditional students are looking for ways to be successful. So we have to do a better job in general, let's say at the university level, to just find out how do we cater majors to these individual people? Do we set up associate's degrees that can cater to them? Do we reclassify certain bachelor programs that can cater to them? But we have to look at it holistically to find ways to reach these non-traditional students to help them to be successful. If they decide they wanted to come back to college, then we need to help them to find ways where they can be successful in college. And then we also need to partner with, I talked about career services over and over again because I've done that in my past, but we have to have a relationship with career services because that's vital to make sure the student gets on the right career path. And since I'm already, under my supervision is the FYE program, my first year experience programs, we have to make sure those University 111 classes are doing Design Your Life class, doing Design Your Life, implementing those. And so also career services intertwines with those services as well to make sure they're getting what they need in those University 111 classes, because it really should be designing your life in that class. So it should really be about what's my plan A, what's my plan B, and what's my plan C.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we have all that on the front end, and that class is giving you a design your life, that class is giving you resources, that class is preparing you for tutoring and other resources at the university, then you're really getting what you need to start off right at the university.
Yeah. Well, and universities, within a university, they can be siloed. You got different divisions. You got academic affairs, student affairs, enrollment. And so what you're definitely keying in there on is the importance of working across those units, really to minimize that friction for the students. And you're right, some of these services, depending upon the university, may fall under academic affairs, may fall under student affairs, may fall under enrollment.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the onus is not on the student to understand how to navigate. They're necessary to realize that there's those differences.
And we talk about, as us being Gardner-Webb University, we can't forget about our dimensions classes.
Yeah.
Because those are vital for the spiritual component that we talked about. And that spiritual component is important for you to be successful in all these other components. So we want to make sure that you're getting that spiritual component and literally encouraging you to grow from those dimension classes. It's not something that's just mandatory for you to go to, but there's meaning behind it, there's growth behind it, there's purpose behind it. And at the end of the day, in the DIP model, we talk about purposeful engagement at the very end, the P, but it's really about a student finding their purpose. If we get a student to find their purpose early on in the process, they're going to be retained.
Yeah.
Because they're going to know why they're here. They're going to know their purpose. They're going to know, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. This is how I can help people. And if you get the purpose early on, we've won.
Yeah.
And so we really have to do a good job of helping students find their purpose early on in the process.
Well, we've talked a lot about success, retention, completion, advising. But student success, again, we've already talked about this as well. Depends on knowing how to navigate the institution itself. So we've sort of taken the oomph out of this segment, but that brings us to a special segment that I like to call the hidden curriculum. And so again, the hidden curriculum is that the stuff that's not necessarily put in writing. The first day, no one's specifically told, "Hey, you got to do this." But it's critical in order for students to be successful to at some point understand, learn, or pick that up.
Right.
So what's one thing that the typical student needs to understand about navigating college in order to be successful? Something that may not be explicitly taught and that is overlooked or even underused.
Yeah. I would say a student needs to know or need to learn grit. Okay? And grit can be broken down into growth, resilience, intentionality, and tenacity. They need to have grit in order to be successful. Everything that we talk about, the DIP model and all the rest of these steps and these support systems we put them through, but we need to teach them grit throughout this process. You have to be intentional about your growth. You have to be tenacious about your growth. You have to be resilient about your growth. And if you understand these concepts and you have a good foundation, then you'll be able to go through the steps necessary to be successful. But grit is something that we need to teach every student that comes to the door.
I realized in that question, it was a little bit of a loaded question because you could probably come up with a list of 100 things.
Right.
But grit's an important one. And that's one, too, that I think that this average student today perhaps gets unfairly characterized as not having grit. And it's not that they necessarily don't have grit, because, many of the students today, they lived through COVID.
Right.
They managed through that. But there's different, I guess you could say, levels of fidelity or layers of grit.
Right.
And so while you, in certain ways, you can persevere through certain situations, there's other aspects where you need to realize, hey, wait a minute, I can preserve, I have grit in here, but
yes.
I need to have that same level of grit in this other area.
And everything. I'm doing bad in the class, and so this is where grit comes in. I can accept that and be like, well, I'm trying, or I can say I'm going to take the next step and say, well, I was getting 1 hour of tutoring. Maybe I needed 2 hours of tutoring. Maybe I need to go to tutoring 3 times a week instead of 1 time a week. That to me is grit. You're taking an extra step over and beyond of what's necessary, reasonable, or normal based on what somebody's told you, but you're going to do whatever is necessary to be successful in that class.
Yeah.
That's grit. And it's different levels, like you said, but you have to figure out what you necessarily do as an individual to be successful. And so that could be a level 1 grit, that could be a level 5 grit, or level 10 grit, but you have to understand what that level is so you can be successful in that class, and you have to go get it.
Yeah.
But we have to teach you that mindset from the beginning. If we don't teach you that, or if we use the term but don't break down how you actually can take advantage of it, then we have misled the student. We have to do that ourselves.
Or if we use the term or we teach it, but we don't thread it throughout the rest of that experience.
Yes.
No, well, I think I love that answer for that hidden curriculum, and it's one that it definitely comes up. Multiple conversations in higher ed, but definitely I'm glad we're able to sort of highlight that one here in our discussion today. Okay, as we start to wind down, and this is what's amazing, 30, 40 minutes go by real quick. We're going to have you back on for a couple more episodes because, again, this is such an important area. But so one question I want to ask before I get to my final couple, if there's one aspect of how institutions approach student success that you could just completely redesign, just say, you know what, boom, that practice is done. We're going to do something different. I'm just curious from your perspective, what's one easy one right to go to and be like, you know what?
To get rid of something we should do no matter what is what you're saying.
Yeah. Or change something.
Actually, it's multiple things.
I know. Again, another loaded question. It could be 100 things on here.
I would say if I had to pick something right now, I would say a vital thing for us to have, we have what we call living learning communities here, but I would focus on just learning communities. Not that it's great for you to live with a person, that's important, but learning communities where you and a cohort of students who are like-minded, taking the same major, taking the same class together. So we build a community of students, a cohort of students together is, and some universities do it, but mandatory that you come in, you're a science major, a computer science major, this is the cohort of students you came in, all of y'all are taking 3 or 4 classes together, boom, you're in a cohort. That's your group. Now you've built community from the beginning. And that's the benefit the athletes have because they already have a built-in community. But our other students who are not athletes don't have a built-in community. So if you had a cohort of students who were taking the same major as you, have these learning communities, y'all take classes together, now you have a built-in community as well. And that's something that I would institute right away. And it's not always easy to do that. You got to find class space. I'm not saying I have all the answers, Greg, but I'm just saying the concept.
You don't?
No, I don't. But the concept of that, you taking classes together in a learning community is huge because you build that community. And we had some of that in my previous interviews. We had some learning communities, and the retention rates are astronomical when they're in these learning communities as opposed to just students just regularly taking classes. So that's something that I would institute.
Awesome. I love that answer. Okay, so final questions. Questions I ask every guest on this podcast. If you could give one piece of advice to yourself back in your first year, now the knowledge you have now, what would it be?
I would tell myself to have a backup plan.
You mentioned that at the start.
Yeah. So I was all about being an athlete, and that was it. But I did not have a backup plan. I would tell myself, hey, what if this sports thing doesn't work out? What's your plan? You need to get a plan. And so I would definitely have a backup plan. So,
well, I was going to say, and really, it's not even just a backup plan. It's making sure that you've got a concrete overall plan.
Yes,
because,
a concrete overall plan.
Yeah.
What's plan A, plan B, and plan C? We talked about design your life stuff. We need a plan A and plan B and plan C. I would make sure I had a plan A. You always have the plan A, B, and C. You always have a dream plan. Dream should have been A is be an athlete, dream. But what's B and C? I had no B and C. I just had the A, my dream, but I didn't have B and C.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. But I would make sure I had B and C if I went back.
What do you hope what do you hope students from Gardner-Webb say about their support experience when they graduate or after they've graduated?
I would say they felt they had a sense of belonging here at Gardner-Webb. They felt they belonged. They felt that the staff here, especially the people under my purview, the people I supervise, they felt that they was there for them, they supported them, and they were excited about their overall success, and that's what they wanted to do. And so that's what I would say. We create a sense of belonging in my area. And sometimes people think belonging is cultural or racial, but belonging is universal. And so no matter what student you are, where you come from, everybody can feel disconnected, and you need to have that intentional connection so they have that belonging. So everybody needs that. And so we need to give that to every student who walks through the door.
Final question, you get the mic. What's any final message you want to leave with students, faculty, staff listening today?
We just have to create the pathway for our students. We have to figure out a way to help them, meet them where they are. I know we have our own things, the way we do things, but we have to meet the student where they are so they can be successful. And that doesn't mean lower our standards at Gardner-Webb, but that means make sure they have the resources they need to be successful. So we need to meet them where they are with the resources that we have in place to make sure they know about these resources so they could be successful. So I think that's what I would say.
I was going to add and to make that path as frictionless as possible. But coming back to the point you just made, that's not about reducing rigor.
No,
that's just avoiding the unnecessary hoops, the unnecessary walls and barriers.
No,
that oftentimes institutions put up, intentional or unintentional.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we understand that basically where we are is that the standard is the standard.
Yep.
And we can't go below the standard, but we can help you, we can give you the resource so you can meet the standard.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so the standard is the standard. We're not lowering the standard, but we're giving you the resource so you can meet the standard.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we need to do. Yes.
Well, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, really, I think we could go on and so we'll be. I'll convince you. I'll twist your arm to come back today. But again, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This conversation highlights something I care deeply about. Student success is not a single office or a single initiative. It's an institutional commitment to clear pathways, strong support, and consistent follow-through so students can persist and complete their goals. This is why we have these conversations on the Bulldog Mindset. Yes, we want to highlight the people and the programs at Gardner-Webb, and that matters. But this podcast is also meant to be useful for students learning how to navigate their educational journey, useful for faculty and staff who do the daily work that drives student success. So if an episode helps someone see that path more clearly, to do their work more effectively, then we are doing what we set out to do. So if you found this episode helpful, be sure to follow the Bulldog Mindset wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a future conversation or episode. You can also learn more about Gardner-Webb University, our programs, our student support efforts at gardner-webb.edu. And as always, special thanks for Noel Mannion, who takes the raw recording and engineers it into something listeners can enjoy each week. He is the steady hand in the production chair, and this show depends on his skill and precision. Until next time, stay focused on purpose, stay connected to students, and keep doing the work that helps them succeed. This is the Bulldog Mindset.